The camera finds him on a mountain road, shoulders steady, cadence unbroken. Jonas Abrahamsen leads a thinning line of climbers with a rhythm that looks impossible for a rider built like him. He's heavier, broader, unmistakably solid in a sport that worships the opposite, yet he's the one forcing the favorites into difficulty. Cycling has lived by one principle for decades: lighter means faster. Riders trim weight from everything, including themselves. But Jonas rewrote that logic. He gained nearly 20 kilograms, restored the strength his body had been denied, and emerged with an engine capable of tearing open stages at the Tour de France. The peloton can predict almost everything, except a rider who breaks the rules and still wins the physics lesson. Understanding how that happened is the story ahead. Before Jonas ever reached the World Tour, he entered a sport shaped by an obsession with weight.
Since I was 15, 16 years old, I was like 58, 60 kilo. And I know that I was pretty explosive in my muscles. So in 2019, 2020, I gained a lot of weight, 20 kilos. So I go from around 60 to 80.
Young riders hear it early. Watts per kilo decides your future. The scale becomes a scoreboard. Lightness is treated as commitment, even when it erodes the foundation needed to develop. Jonas absorbed that message because everyone did. He trained hard, ate little, and measured progress in numbers that ignored how his body actually felt. What looked like discipline was, in truth, the beginning of a problem hidden beneath the surface. A system that rewarded a body type he didn't naturally have and couldn't sustain. Years later, Jonas would describe this period with one phrase: his body went into hibernation. Underfueled and overtrained, his physiology slowed to protect itself. Puberty stalled. Growth halted. Recovery never caught up. His body wasn't adapting to training. It was retreating from it. Nothing about the struggle was obvious from the outside. Jonas was talented, committed, and doing the work, but he didn't have the energy to improve. The sport asked him to be lighter. His body responded by shutting down. It wasn't a lack of effort. It was the cost of a culture he was too young to question. Jonas later explained that the most confusing part was how normal it felt at the time. He didn't experience a dramatic crash or a clear breaking point, just a slow dimming of the things a young athlete should feel: strength, hunger, growth, even confidence. Training sessions became survival exercises instead of steps forward. His body wasn't signaling failure loudly. It was whispering through exhaustion, through plateaus, through a kind of quiet heaviness that never lifted. In hindsight, it wasn't weakness. It was the biology of a teenager trying to protect itself from demands it couldn't fuel.
To work 7 o'clock and was finished 3. And then I was cycling home and then train maybe 3 hours. And then I was sleeping 8 o'clock again, 9 o'clock. And then it was my Cyclist for 2.5 years.
Everything changed when Jonas joined Uno X. The team didn't treat thinness as a measurement of potential. They saw an athlete whose body needed restoration, not discipline. Their philosophy was simple: build healthy riders and performance would follow. Nutritionists, doctors, and coaches replaced expectations with structure. Eating became part of training, not something squeezed around it. Recovery mattered. Growth was allowed to resume. Uno X didn't ask Jonas to become someone else. They asked his body to function again. This reset didn't produce dramatic moments. It produced stability, the quiet groundwork for everything that came next. Once his physiology restarted, the transformation accelerated. Jonas gained almost 20 kilograms, not through excess but through correction. Muscle formed where it had never been given a chance to grow. Bones strengthened, hormones balanced. His body finally matched the demands of endurance sport. Inside the peloton, the change looked impossible. Riders fought to keep weight down. Jonas moved in the opposite direction. Yet he became stronger and more durable with every season. The added mass wasn't a burden. It was the foundation of a new athlete. He didn't slow down. He became someone the peloton struggled to drop and eventually struggled to control. With stability came identity. Jonas didn't evolve into a sprinter or a climber. He became something rarer, a rider who could hold high power for hours, unaffected by terrain or attrition. The rebuilt muscle gave him torque. Adequate fueling gave him endurance. His naturally calm physiology turned those traits into a diesel engine that refused to fade. What made Jonas even more unusual was how closely his temperament matched his physiology. He wasn't volatile, emotional, or reactive on the bike. Teammates describe him as steady to the point of understatement, a rider who rarely changes expression, who never wastes energy on frustration, and who carries the same calm cadence in conversation that he does on a climb. That emotional stability became an advantage in breakaways, where panic burns matches faster than gradients do. Jonas rides with an internal quietness that mirrors the engine he built. Controlled, deliberate, consistent. In the chaos of the tour, that calm becomes its own form of strength. The gains weren't abstract. When Jonas finally ate enough to match his training load, his body began producing the hormones it had lacked. Testosterone rose to normal levels, allowing muscle to grow. Glycogen stores increased, giving him the ability to sustain long efforts without collapsing late. His oxygen uptake improved because his system no longer operated on emergency mode. Even his pedaling mechanics changed. More stability in the hips, smoother torque at the bottom of the stroke, fewer energy leaks. Jonas didn't just become heavier, he became more efficient. Cycling has specialists. Jonas became a disruptor, the rider who turns long stages into endurance tests the peloton doesn't want. As Jonas grew, so did Uno X. They entered the World Tour ecosystem without the resources or legacy of the giants, but with a clarity of purpose. Produce strong, healthy athletes over years, not months. Their Scandinavian approach, structured, disciplined, transparent, stood out precisely because it didn't imitate anyone else. The routines were sharp and simple, shared meals with predictable nutrition, data-driven training without obsession, and a culture where riders spoke openly about fatigue instead of suppressing it. Team meetings focused on development, not punishment. In an environment where many riders hide weakness, Uno X treated honesty as a performance tool. It created a rare atmosphere, a team where growth was sustainable because the system didn't demand shortcuts. They didn't search for stars, they developed them. Jonas was the perfect example. When Uno X arrived at the tour, few expected them to shape the race narrative, but Jonas forced the camera to find him. Breakaways, tempo work, mountain points, relentless presence. Every stage he touched gained structure from his effort. He didn't just join moves, he dictated them. There was the long escape on a transitional stage where lighter riders sagged behind him on false flats. He turned into ramps. The mountain day where he clawed his way into the breakaway and collected comm points while commentators wondered why no one could shake him. And the windy cross-tailwind section where his diesel pace fractured a group that should have stayed together. These weren't isolated flashes, they were patterns. His engine turned transitional days into battles and mountain stages into tests of resilience. He repeated the same punishing rhythm day after day, and the peloton eventually understood. He wasn't going away. Jonas wasn't a curiosity anymore. He was a problem the race had to solve. His rise challenged more than the physics lesson. It challenged the ideology behind it. Jonas proved that performance doesn't always come from reduction. It can come from restoration, strength, and a body allowed to grow into its potential. Young riders saw a different path, one where health wasn't a compromise. Coaches saw proof that a heavier rider could excel in roles traditionally reserved for lighter bodies, and Uno X saw their philosophy validated in real time. Jonas's story is unfinished, and that's what makes it compelling. He is still rising, still refining, still discovering what the engine inside him can carry, but his impact is already visible. He showed that the sport's assumptions aren't laws, they're choices, and choices can change. In a generation shaped by pressure, data, and relentless comparisons, Jonas offers something rare, a story where patience and rebuilding outperform shortcuts and self-restriction. He represents the kind of athlete the next decade of cycling may depend on, stronger, healthier, and unafraid to challenge the culture they inherited. If he continues on this trajectory, he won't just be a standout rider, He'll be a signal of where the sport can go when development is allowed to follow biology instead of expectation. Jonas Abrahamsen didn't break the rules for attention. He simply became the rider his body was meant to be, and the sport had to adjust.